Part 19. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 181. Let's go. Sumu reached out to hold Huo Ling's hand, but Huo Ling glanced at Fatty Wang next to him and was too embarrassed to put his hand on it. Instead, he walked into the passage first. Along the passage, several people and Wu Sanzhong and Mi Na Yuping gathered together. In this tomb, as Fatty Wang had told him, there was an ancient bronze tree with countless bells hanging on it. This tomb should be just an ear chamber, located relatively close to the dome. The most conspicuous thing was the bronze tree covered with bronze bells, but for a while no one dared to go up and touch the tree. How could it look weird to have such a bronze tree placed here? Sumu also thought it was. Question, but before they had time to think about what was wrong, Huo Ling stepped forward and touched the bell on the tree without taking it seriously. In just a moment, everyone seemed to hear a strange sound. A bit it sounded like a bell, but also a bit like some other sound. The sound was bewitching, and people couldn't help but fall into a trance the moment they heard it. Sumu also felt that he was in a trance. But because there was with the strengthening of Zilong's bloodline, all of his attributes have been greatly improved, and even his mental aspect is different from before. So after the disturbing sound just now, Sumu was also in a daze. For a moment, but soon woke up. Well. That voice was still ringing. Sumu covered his stinging temples and glanced at the others. He found that they were still in a trance, even Mi Na Yuping was no exception. They must wake up. Sumu thought this and focused his attention on the source of the sound, which was the bronze bell that Huo Ling had touched. Sumu's thoughts turned around and he thought of a way. He casually took out the black gold ancient sword of Mi Na Yuping, and then raised his hand to slash the bronze bell. At that moment, the bronze bell fell directly to the ground. On the ground, the ancient black gold sword was sheathed, and Sumu stepped forward and stepped on the bronze bell. The powerful strength attribute bonus caused Sumu to crush the bronze bell directly. A scream that was sharper than the previous one was heard, but it stopped abruptly in just 2 seconds. What is that? Sumu was stunned. He lowered himself to check the broken pieces of the bronze bell. After pushing aside the fragments, Sumu saw a very strange insect corpse. Because it had been trampled to pieces, Sumu couldn't tell what the insect corpse looked like originally. In this way, we can only slightly distinguish some legs that should belong to insect corpses. There seemed to be many. At this moment, the few people who were in chaos woke up from the confusion. They first glanced around blankly, and then suddenly I remembered what happened just now, and then there was a wave of fear on my face. How wonderful that expression was. What happened to me just now? Huo Ling looked around in panic. When she saw Sumu's figure, her panic suddenly eased. We were just controlled. The first person to react was Mi Na Yuping. His physique is also special. Although he was controlled just now, he did not have the slightest resistance like others. Instead, he still had a certain perception of some things in the outside world. It's powerful. Sumu also nodded to prove Mi Na Yuping's statement, and pointed to the fragments of the bronze bell on the ground and the unknown insect corpse, and said you should all be controlled by this bronze bell, that insect just inside the bronze bell. This is a poisonous insect that hides inside a hexagonal bronze bell. It uses the sound of the bell to confuse people and then make them fall into hallucinations, leading them to death unknowingly. It was rare for Mi Na Yuping to come up with a long list of explanations. Fatty Wang had a look of horror on his face. He had never thought that he had just escaped from the gate of hell. It was simply too terrifying. Now no one dared to touch the hexagonal bronze bell on the tree anymore. They even tried to avoid getting close to it, for fear that what happened just now would happen again, and it would be more of a loss than a gain. Sumu felt a little pity when he looked at the bronze bells in the tree. It would be good to take out a few of these things. Unfortunately, there are actually goo insects inside, which is really a pity. There are no such things in this tomb. What was worth checking, everyone decided to start walking back. It was only then that they discovered that the elevator of the undersea tomb was once again effective. When they walked out of a section of the tomb passage, they entered another tomb chamber that they had not passed through. There were many sarcophagi inside. Everyone opened them and took a look. Inside were some mummies, the kind that had been dried to the point where almost only the bones were left. Let's go first. Huo Ling felt that there were so many mummies around her, which was quite jarring. Everyone agreed to continue walking forward. They had now visited almost all the tombs they wanted to go to. Except for the supergiant rice dumpling with stitches, we encountered almost no life-threatening dangers, and got some things. It was a worthwhile trip. Now it's time to go out. But how to get out? This is a question. As everyone came along, walking back through the tomb passage, I was originally worried that I would encounter the oversized rice dumpling from before, but it was very safe along the way until I reached the place where they came ashore and saw that their equipment was still safely placed in place. Putting on the diving equipment, everyone began to discuss how to get out. Because when they came before, the entrance had collapsed, so they were now directly trapped in the undersea tomb. If they wanted to get out, they could only find another one. A place where they can go out, and this place can only be found by themselves. How about we just dig a big hole in the tomb wall? Fatty Wang suggested. How to chisel? Go directly to the pillars of the tomb chamber and chisel them. Fatty Wang said matter-of-factly. I think I can try it, maybe it will work. Well, let's go try it. Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 182. Well, let's go try it. Seeing that several people were chatting enthusiastically, Su Mu couldn't help but poured a ladle of cold water on them and said, "It's useless. The dome there has been poured with molten iron. You can't cut it open at all." Everyone was stunned. They originally wanted to ask Su Mu how he knew it, but after thinking about it, Su Mu should have tried it before he said this, and they were relieved. However, their ideas were rejected now, and now what should we do? Mina Yuping was different from what others thought. He felt that Su Mu seemed to be hiding something. But he would not take the initiative to ask other people's secrets. He just gave Su Mu a meaningful look and chose continue to be silent. Since the method of drilling holes doesn't work, then the only option is to use explosives. Fatty Wang said as he took out the things he had prepared in advance, a package wrapped in several layers of waterproof oil paper. You actually prepared this thing? Huo Ling exclaimed. Fatty Wang said proudly, is the normal operation good? In that case, use this method. As he said that, everyone focused their attention on Su Mu. The eyes seemed to say, is this method okay? Su Mu did not object this time and chose to let them do it on their own. All he had to do was cooperate. Now that it is confirmed method, then just wait for the implementation. Everyone chose a more suitable place to start placing explosives. As long as the explosives go off later, a hole will be blown directly here, and seawater will pour in immediately. At that time, it will a very powerful water impact formed, and they had to find a way to protect themselves. Others were still discussing how to use explosives to blow a hole in the undersea tomb, and Su Mu thought of that period before they came. When he met the countless mummies seen in the sea area of Forbidden Woman, Su Mu knew that as long as the moisture of those mummies receded, they would transform into zombies. So he mentioned it to Wu Sanzhong and the others. So Mina Yuping went to kill them directly. All the mummies soaked in the water were fished out. I'm here to help you. Seeing that Mina Yuping was dragging the mummy back and forth by himself, Huo Ling also stepped forward to help. With the helper, Mina Yuping's recovery of the mummy was obviously much faster. The movements of the two were very flexible and very fast. They put the mummies in the ear room above, and found ropes to tie them together. After setting up the explosives, the two returned to Sumu and the others. Now they were waiting for the mummies to recede and turn into corpses, and then detonated the explosives. And then used the strong attack power of those mummies to directly knock a hole out of the stone wall. Everyone waited silently. They had already put on their diving suits and checked their oxygen equipment. The remaining oxygen was enough for them to swim out and return to the sea. Time passed by minute by second, and everyone was observing carefully. When they saw that the knuckles of the mummies could move at first, and then the whole body began to move stiffly, the time required was only a short time. Just 10 minutes. Everyone is ready. Hurry up and protect yourselves. Okay. Then I'm going to explode. Huoling glanced at the people who had found a good position and fixed their bodies. After positioning herself properly, she pressed the activator of the explosive without hesitation. Bang. Boom. However, while breathing, a violent noise was heard, and everyone felt that the ground beneath their feet seemed to be shaking. The top of the tomb began to tremble violently, and fine stones and dust began to fall down. Immediately afterwards, the sea water poured in, and the turbulent sea water rushed in from the hole that was blown out, and soon the entire undersea tomb was submerged. Everyone only heard a loud rumbling sound echoing in their ears, and then the water level under their feet was rising at an extremely terrifying speed. Because they had protected their own safety in advance, no one had any accidents when the sea water poured in, and there was no damage to their diving equipment. Is everyone okay? Fine. All very good. When the sea water submerged everyone, they gathered together. After confirming that there was no problem with everyone's equipment, they began to swim outside. The sea water was still a deep color, which made people look a little depressing, and sometimes there were some broken bones floating in the air. As everyone swam up, the mummies that had not been blown to pieces had once again lost their activity and returned to their mummy state due to being soaked in sea water. Therefore, when everyone swam out, not hindered by them. Ah! Suddenly, Huoling's exclamation came from the communicator. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 183. Ah! Suddenly, Huoling's exclamation came from the communicator. Everyone was startled and quickly looked back, but they did not see the figure of Huoling who had been following them. Huoling. Sumu hurriedly called out into the communicator, but what he received in response was a series of disturbed noises. The sea water was too deep, severely blocking everyone's vision. In other people's eyes, they could only see a distance of less than 1 meter in front of them, but Sumu could see a little further away. At this moment, in his eyes, he just saw a figure being entangled by something, and then trying to drag her deeper into the seabed. The figure being entangled and dragged was none other than Huoling. Hateful. Let her go. Sumu didn't have time to think about it. He turned over and changed the direction. Then he swung his feet quickly and swam towards the figure in front of him at a very fast speed. Seeing Sumu's quick movements, the others quickly followed. He went up, but Sumu's speed was too fast, and the others were still pulled away a lot even though they tried to swim. Like an arrow, Sumu pierced directly towards the thing entangled with Huoling, but when the distance was closer, it was discovered that all the things wrapped around Huoling were hair. It was the forbidden woman again. Sumu's eyes froze, and she felt that anger had begun to rise in her heart. The forbidden woman came over again and again to provoke them, fearing that she must be impatient. Thinking this, Sumu did not slow down and quickly came to Huoling's side. He began to help her break off the hair strands that were entangled with him and her. Sumu was very strong, and these hair can be torn off easily like tentacles. It should have been easy to rescue Huoling, but after trying hard for a long time, Sumu found that what he just did had little effect. If he breaks a strand of hair, there will be another strand wrapped around Huoling's body. There were too many strands of hair to pull out. If you want these hairs to lose their vitality, you must first get rid of the source of the forbidden woman. Thinking like this, Sumu directly handed Huoling to a few people who arrived later and asked them to help break the hair strands that were pulling Huoling, while Sumu himself began to search for the whereabouts of the forbidden woman among the scattered hair. It was just that. Sumu left Huoling in just a split second. More hair immediately wrapped around Huoling's body. Even Fatty Minaya Pingwang and the others were unable to free Huoling when they sped up. They were caught off guard, and those hairs pulled Huoling directly into the pile of hair. Sumu, it's not good. Huoling was taken away. Fat Wan couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw this. Sumu turned around and saw the scene where Huoling was pulled away. He could only turn around again and swim towards the place where Huoling was pulled away. While swimming, Sumu saw half of the face that came out of the mouth below. It was the pale face of the forbidden woman, still with a weird smile. A pair of black and hollow eyes were staring at him, and Huolinja was being pulled towards him by her. Sumu kicked off his feet without thinking, and his whole body was shot downwards in the water at an extremely fast speed. He thought about approaching quickly, then he directly fired 2 shots at Jinpo. Although there may be only a slight error in the water, with his shooting skills, it is hard to believe that he could not hit Jinpo. However, he underestimated his swimming skills and speed attributes. These the attributes were so abnormal that Sumu could only kick his feet and plunge directly into the forbidden woman's hair at an extremely fast speed. Damn it, Sumu cursed secretly, but it was too late. Chapter 148. Sumu just plunged into the pile of scattered hair, and was instantly covered by the hair that was thicker than seaweed. Submerged. For a moment, Sumu only felt that his eyes were filled with black strands of hair, occupying almost all of his field of vision and blocking his way forward. However, Sumu, whose attributes were beyond ordinary people, generally speaking, these hair strands did not play much role in blocking him. The moment Sumu was submerged by the hair, he suddenly grabbed a bunch of hair next to him, and then pulled it hard. The hair strands dancing around him were torn off. The other hair seemed to be wrapped around Sumu's wrist, and could not escape the fate of being torn off. Sumu just pulled his hair and searched for it in the pile of hair. Huoling, soon he saw Huoling, who was about to be wrapped into a cocoon. Sumu's eyes flashed, and he quickly swam towards Huoling. Huoling! Huoling, wake up! Huoling! What voice is calling me? Huoling opened her eyes blankly and looked forward, as if she were a soulless puppet. Her consciousness seemed to be in an isolated space, where she were the only ones. She could only stay there and could not go anywhere, and no one could reach her. Gradually, she almost forgot that she was who has forgotten the teammates outside who are desperately trying to save her. Until those calls were like sharp knives, piercing the barrier that isolated her in that space, allowing her to return to the real world. Well, Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 184. Well. The moment light appeared in her eyes, Huoling suddenly woke up as if she had been awakened. However, the first thing she felt when she woke up was that she was suffocating. The tightening feeling in her throat made it impossible for her to breathe. She could feel that the thing wrapped around her neck was still tightening, as if it was going to break her neck in the next second. Well. Huoling raised her neck slightly in discomfort, trying to reach out and scratch the thing wrapped around her neck. However, when she wanted to use her hands, she realized that her hands were also tightly bound and could not move at all. The light in front of her eyes was approaching quickly, and Huo Ling seemed to see an extremely familiar face in her eyes that were gradually blurring due to suffocation. Is it Sumu? Why did she seem to see Sumu's face? Could it be because the one she wanted to see most before she died was Sumu? That's why you looked at Sumu's face? Huo Ling. Can you hear me? Sumu's anxious voice came to her ears, which made Huo Ling's dazed thoughts clearer again. She looked at the familiar figure with difficulty, trying to reach out to her, but in the end she was unable to do anything. Sumu. Help me. Huo Ling looked at Sumu with difficulty, wanting to remember that face that made her enchanted deeply in her heart at the last moment. Huo Ling, hold on, I'll come to rescue you right away. Just when Huo Ling seemed to be about to give up her struggle, Sumu's voice was like a shot in the arm, pricking Huo Ling's heart again, giving her already exhausted spirit and body a huge boost. Exciting. She tried hard to hold on to her energy and uttered one word with difficulty, okay. After hearing Huo Ling's response, Sumu felt relieved, and the movements of his hands began to speed up. Those hairs seemed to know that Sumu wanted to save Huo Ling, and in an instant, countless hair strands rushed towards Su. They wrapped around Sumu's body crazily, but they were always violently pulled by Sumu after they got wrapped around him. Broken. Soon, Sumu pulled out Huo Ling's hair from the cocoon and hugged Huo Ling, who had almost lost all her strength. Sumu quickly saw where the forbidden woman was with a glance. He saw that Jinpo's expression had lost its original smile and became extremely ferocious. She knew how powerful Sumu was, so she used all her strength to deal with Sumu. In an instant, more lights than before gathered together, overwhelmingly surrounding Sumu, and wrapped tightly around Sumu's body. However, Sumu's power attribute was not something that the forbidden woman could withstand. He had already discovered the location of the forbidden woman, hugged Huo Ling with one hand, and violently tore the hair in front of him with the other hand. As soon as the hair formed a cocoon, a tear was torn out by Sumu. The pale and ferocious face of the forbidden woman outside was revealed. Gunfighting fast gun skills. Sumu raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth, and activated the spear fighting technique directly. With his speed boosted by the fast spear technique, he drew his gun and shot at the forbidden woman's position in almost the blink of an eye. Bang bang bang. With several rapid gunshots, the air pressure gun directly penetrated the forbidden woman's head. Almost half of the pale face was smashed, and the hair that was flying around like living creatures lost control of the forbidden woman. Stopped moving in an instant, and slowly sank to the bottom of the sea with the forbidden woman. Ding. A falling attribute light group was detected nearby. Will the host pick it up? The sound of the system prompt sounded just right. Sumu had already seen the light group floating in the deep sea water, emitting white light. Pick up. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the immortality attribute light group from the forbidden woman, the immortality attribute X100. Sumu was overjoyed and chose to merge the attributes immediately. Ding. Congratulations on the upgrade of the host's immortality attribute. The current level is top level and the host's lifespan has been increased by 100 years. Sumu was startled. He didn't expect that after the fusion of the longevity attribute light group of the forbidden woman, he actually stacked his own immortality attribute to the top level. Moreover, his lifespan was once again increased by 100 years. Adding his own lifespan, he could easily Songkin live to be more than 200 years old, which is an unexpected good thing. This upgrade is so fast, it is much better than the jade figurines used by corpse-eating crickets. After solving the forbidden mother-in-law, Sumu looked at Huo Ling in his arms and found that Huo Ling had fainted. He didn't know if Huo Ling had been hurt just now. Now that Huo Ling was unconscious, he could only go ashore to check as soon as possible. At this time, there was a message on the communicator. Here comes the fat man's cry. Sumu, how are you doing? Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 185. Sumu, how are you doing? Fat Wang's anxious inquiry came from the communicator. Although he saw that all the hair controlled by the forbidden woman sank to the bottom of the sea, until he was sure that Sumu had done something, he still couldn't help but worry about Sumu and Huoling. Safety. We're fine, it's just that Huoling fainted. We have to get ashore quickly. I'll take her up first, and you guys should come up quickly too. With that said, Sumu hugged Huoling and began to swim quickly to the sea. At such a speed, even Fatty Wang Minayuping and the others who were chasing after him couldn't catch up. With Sumu's speed, he quickly swam to the sea. There is a small island not far away from them. Even if it is a small island, it is at most a small stretch of beach rising out of the sea. The kind that can be completely submerged if the tide rises slightly. Sumu took Huoling ashore, and directly used the communication equipment on the diving suit to directly contact the ship that had been sent to them in advance. At the same time, the large ship they had arranged in advance was still waiting on the sea. There are boatmen on the ship at any time with binoculars searching for traces of people on the sea. Not long after Sumugan came to the surface with Huoling in his arms, a boatman discovered them. Immediately, he received another signal from Sumu, so he immediately drove the big ship to the two of them, and took him and Huoling onto the big ship. As soon as the two of them were picked up on the big boat, Menju Bottle and the others emerged from the water one step after another. The boatman was pulling the bottle of oil and they boarded the ship, while Sumu carried Huoling into the cabin and did a brief inspection to make sure that there were no other injuries except for a little bit of skin scratched by the cat corpse. After that, I felt a little relieved. After Sumu came out, he saw that everyone was already on the boat, so he stepped forward and asked, "Is everyone okay? Is there any problem?" Although they all checked that their oxygen equipment was still sufficient, they were stumbled and was delayed for a while. You must know that if there is a lack of oxygen in the sea, there will be some bad consequences. That's why Sumu was worried and asked. "We are all okay, how is Huoling?" Wu Sanzhong asked. Sumu said, "It's nothing serious. I just fainted. I should wake up later." "That's good." Wu Sanzhong breathed a sigh of relief, and even Mina Yuping's eyes showed a little relief. But Fatty Wang leaned closer to Sumu and said with a wink, "You can be regarded as a hero saving the beauty this time. Maybe when Miss Huo wakes up later, she will have to say that the kindness is too great and she will offer her with her own body." Seeing Fatty Wang's weird and funny look, Sumu couldn't help but give him a roll of his eyes, and said with a smile, "Get out of here, what do you know? That's not easy. Miss Huo has already confessed her love to you. Is it still far to promise her your love?" Fat Wang came close to Sumu and whispered, which attracted the eyes of Wu Sanzhong next to him. "Don't make random guesses." Sumu coughed twice in embarrassment, and scolded Fatty Wang in a serious manner. Fatty Wang covered his mouth and snickered, with a mean look on his face that I knew. After bumping Sumu with his shoulder, he laughed. He turned around and left. Wu Sanzhong was shocked by Fatty Wang's weird smile. He glanced at Sumu suspiciously, and then asked with his eyes, "Did he just soak in the water for too long and have water in his head? Or did you smoke?" Sumu almost laughed out loud, shook her head and turned back to the cabin. In the cabin, Huoling was still lying on the bed and fell asleep. Because of the attack before, Huoling didn't look very happy at the moment. "Okay, she looks a little pale." Sumu sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Huoling's face condescendingly, focusing and affectionately. "I have to say that Huoling is really a unique beauty. Exquisite face, almond-shaped eyes. The cheeks, nose, and lips, every frown and smile are so attractive." Sumu was attracted by that beautiful face when he first saw Huoling. But he is an upright person, not a casual person. He is a person who has no bottom line when it comes to lust, so he just appreciates beauties normally. The subsequent interactions with him made him feel that this girl was much better than he thought, and her skills were unexpectedly good, which made him even more attracted to her. Attraction. If Huo Ling hadn't confessed to him because of Fatty Wang's teasing, Sumu might have only regarded her as his friend and confidant. But he would not have taken that step. But Huo Ling confessed to him directly. Simple and pure, Sumu couldn't bear to refuse her feelings. So after thinking about it, Sumu finally broke down. Thoughts were flowing in Sumu's mind, but his eyes couldn't help but glance up and down Huo Ling's body because Huo Ling is still unconscious. There is no other woman on the boat, and it is difficult for the big men on the boat to change the clothes of the unconscious Huo Ling, so Huo Ling is still wearing the tight-fitting diving suit. It is close to the skin. The wetsuit showed off Huo Ling's graceful figure, and made Sumu feel as if there was a kitten's paw gently teasing her. Huo Ling! Huo Ling! Sumu leaned into Huo Ling's ear and called a few words easily, but Huo Ling hadn't woken up yet and couldn't give any response. Sumu turned his eyes, raised a slight smile at the corner of his mouth, and continued, "I'll give you a massage to activate blood circulation and remove blood stasis. This will make you feel better when you wake up later." Sumu didn't care whether Huo Ling heard it or not. After saying something to Huo Ling, he easily turned Huo Ling over and let her lie down on the bed. Sumu put his hand on Huo Ling's shoulder and began to press it gently. He calmed down, stopped himself from thinking about other things, and continued. Huo Ling needed, just squeezing the unconscious person under her, but there were waves of tiny murmurs coming from her mouth. _ You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 186. What's wrong? Sumu saw Huo Ling's red cheeks, her eyes flashed, and she seemed to know something, but she didn't reveal it. Instead, she reached out and touched Huo Ling's forehead, and said deliberately, "Are you sick? Why is your face so red?" The moment that generous palm covered her forehead, Huo Ling felt her heart tremble violently. Before she could react, she had already grabbed Sumu's palm. "Sumu, I..." When Huo Ling grabbed Sumu's hand, she suddenly let go of her hand, as if she had suddenly reacted, with a shy look on her face. Sumu's eyes flashed and he grabbed the soft hand that wanted to escape. After kissing Huo Ling affectionately, he stood up directly. "Well, since you woke up, I'll go back and take a shower first." Hearing this, Huo Ling nodded shyly and let Sumu return to her bedroom. After going back, Sumu took a cold bath by herself to relieve the restlessness in her body, and then slowly thought about it. His actions along the way. The biggest gain this time is probably the longevity attribute and special secret attribute from the Forbidden Woman. This trip gave him a better understanding of Wang Zhanghai's secrets, and also gave him some knowledge about the next few things. The arrangement of the plan. First, he needs to get the 2 pieces of snake eyebrow copperfish from Wusan province, because the secrets of snake eyebrow copperfish and Wang Zhanghai are closely related to Yunding Tiangong. Sumu is very curious about Yunding Tiangong. If one day he can, after finding the location of Yunding Heavenly Palace, he will definitely explore it. And there is the matter of Huo Ling. Thinking about this, Sumu's door was blocked. When he opened the door, he saw that Huo Ling was outside. "Why are you here?" Sumu said and let Huo Ling into the room. "I'm here to say goodbye, and I'm going back later." Huo Ling looked at Sumu with some reluctance. Sumu was startled, reached out and took Huo Ling's hand, and asked, "Can't you stay? What are you doing here?" Although Huo Ling was delighted with Sumu's offer to stay, she was still a little reserved. "If you stay with me, don't you mean to be my girlfriend? I don't like long-distance relationships," Sumu said, leaning over and kissing Huo Ling's lips. For a long time, Sumu hugged the exhausted Huoling and lay on the bed to rest. Huoling was so tired that she fell asleep again, but Sumu held Wen Xiangyu's body and her thoughts were racing. Now that he and Huoling are connected, they have become a boyfriend and girlfriend with a deeper bond, which makes Sumu become more concerned about Huoling's affairs. After everyone had rested on the boat, the fishing boat also took everyone back to the shore. After everyone got off the boat, they couldn't help but sigh when they stepped on the ground. It felt better to walk on the ground. After a tiring session, everyone felt tired and hungry. Fatty Wang was greedy for fish head hot pot, so the group returned to their accommodation and had fish heads delivered to them. Hot pot and a table full of dishes. Looking at the delicious food on the table, Fatty Wang turned into a glutton and ate the food, and the others did not show any courtesy and ate with great enjoyment. The fish head hot pot was delicious, and even Huoling, who never had a big appetite, ate a lot of it. After eating for a long time, everyone on the table had eaten all the dishes, and then everyone slumped down on their chairs with hiccups and contentment. At this time, Fatty Wang picked his teeth and took out a stone from his pocket, and shook it in front of everyone's eyes, with a stern look on his face. When everyone took a look, they saw that the stone was a square crystal-shaped stone with light green stones. They couldn't help but be a little surprised. How could Fatty Wang, who was so greedy for money, be so proud of holding a stone? Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 187. What do you know? I dug this out in the heavenly palace, and the things inside must be very valuable. Fatty Wang played with the stone in his hand and said with a proud look on his face. You see, this must be a natural crystal stone, and it must be worth a lot of money. When the time comes, it will definitely fetch a good price. It seems that I have already anticipated the day when I will be unable to count money, and I can't help but bring a longing smile to my face. The expression on my face makes the people around me click their tongues. Show me, what good thing is it? Wu Sanzhong took the stone from Fatty Wang's hand and looked at it carefully. But before he could see what material the stone was made of or what its origin was, he heard the stuffy oil bottle next to him say faintly. This is aphrodisiac. Apophyllite. What it is, Fat Wang didn't understand and said doubtfully. Only then did Wu Sanzhong remember the origin of this thing, so he explained. Apophyllite is actually a fluoride silicate mineral of potassium and calcium. It is similar in structure to zeolite and occurs together with zeolite in basalt, granite, and gneiss. It is in the form of columnar plate crystals and pseudo-cubic crystals with different shades. Hue color. What do you mean? Wu Sanzhong said so much that Fatty Wang was a little confused. What fluoride? What fake cubic crystal? Can't you just say something he can understand? It means that your thing is not a rare item. Men Yuping doesn't talk much at ordinary times, but when he poured cold water on him, he was merciless at all. Fatty Wang was stunned for a moment, as if he had been struck by lightning. What? It is worthless. Fat Wang looked in disbelief at the stone that he had treated as a treasure just a moment ago. How could it fall from the sky into dust in the blink of an eye? I do not believe. You must be lying to me and jealous that I got a baby. Fat Wang didn't believe what Min Yiping said, so he only looked at Sumu, and said with earnest eyes. Sumu, tell me, I believe you. Hearing this, Sumu stopped eating and looked at the crystal clear stone. He paused and then asked Fatty Wang, do you really believe what I said? Fatty Wang nodded fiercely and said, I'll tell you. Seeing Fatty Wang nervously waiting for his judgment, he sighed quietly and said. What Minayibo said is true. Although the aphrodisiac stone you see here is somewhat valuable, it is not as valuable as you think. Really, Fatty Wang looked so shocked that he withered instantly. After receiving the aphrodisiac stone that Wu Sanzhong handed back, Fatty Wang's face was filled with despair. It took him a long time to dig it back out of the tomb. This tells me now the thing he had brought back all the way like a treasure turned out to be something from the streets. How could this not make people despair? The more he thought about the stone, the more angry he became. Fatty Wang stood up and raised his hand to take it away. The stone was thrown to the ground, but Wu San's hung next to him quickly grabbed him. "Come on, fat man, why are you so impulsive? Don't worry, I will definitely help you find a buyer and help you sell it at a good price," Wu San's hung persuaded. Hearing this, the stars in Fatty Wang's eyes lit up again. He turned back to look at Wu San's hung with a hopeful look on his face, grabbed his hand and said excitedly, "Real? Is everything you said true?" The look and expression in his eyes were like seeing the living god of wealth. Fatty Wang became energetic. Wu San's hung felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by him. He silently withdrew his hand and tried his best to maintain a natural smile. Said, "Of course it's true, don't worry." Poof. Suddenly there was a low laugh from the side. Fatty Wang turned around and saw Huo Ling smiling, looking at Fatty Wang with a little joking in her eyes. I said, "Fatty, when will you change your greed for money?" "Change? Why change? Wouldn't it be boring to live a lifetime without any hobbies?" "You have so many excuses," Huo Ling sneered. Fatty Wang raised his eyes and glanced at Huo Ling. When he saw her, he would cast his eyes on Sumu from time to time. His heart moved, and a strange smile appeared on his face. "I love money, but there are people here who love sex, don't you think so, Ms. Huo?" Fatty Wang winked at Huo Ling, looked at Sumu beside him with a thoughtful look, and joked directly. Huo Ling pretended not to see it and ignored Fatty Wang's words. Seeing Huo Ling look like this made Fatty Wang even more happy. "I only see money in my eyes, so why don't you only see your own man in your eyes? Tisk, 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 it's half a penny." "Fatty Wang, what are you talking about?" Huo Ling must have been anxious, and she was embarrassed and annoyed, and she was about to hit her, but Sumu stopped her with a secret smile. "Fatty, come on, I won't be able to hold you back for a while." Sumu suppressed laughter and held back. Fatty Wang nodded and laughed twice. He felt that the depressed mood just now due to the blow of the aphrodisiac stone was much better. Huo Ling gave Fatty Wang a blank look. It was clear. Sumu on the side felt very happy. She felt that such a delicate and unruly Huo Ling was very cute. She used to think that she was a well-educated and courteous young lady, but she didn't expect that she actually had such a charming and willful side. Sumu felt that she liked her even more. A few people joked and laughed again. Fatty Wang and Huo Ling were going back and forth with each other. In the end, Wu San's hung had to come out to smooth things over. A few people here were still making trouble, and the other side was bored. But he pulled Sumu and started talking small talk. "What's the matter with me, little brother?" Underscore, comma. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 188. Minayapo took Sumu and started talking. "What's the matter with me, little brother?" Sumu asked. Minayaping still had the expression of emotion and anger, and said in a deep voice, "I hope you can go to Zhang's house and meet my parents." "Go to your home?" "Why?" Sumu was a little confused. He really couldn't understand the purpose of Minayaping. "You are very powerful, I hope you can help me," Minayaping told Sumu his thoughts. Sumu listened carefully and had some plans of his own. He remembered that Menyuping's parents were not in this world. It might be very exciting to go there, and although there were many dangers there, the rewards would definitely be huge. Maybe I can pick up more blood attributes. Thinking like this, Sumu finally became more and more looking forward to the Zhang family's trip. Sumu formally accepted Minayaping's invitation. At this time, Fatty Wang came over, patted the two of them and joked, "What are you two whispering here?" Sumu did not talk about him and Men Yuping. The agreement was made, but it was fooled by Haha. Men Yuping was probably in a good mood after receiving Sumu's promise. It was rare that he took the initiative to invite everyone to go to the tomb next time. Moreover, it was not an ordinary tomb, so he directly chose the tomb of King Xian, which was full of dangers. Listening to Men Yuping's tone of voice when he said Xian Wang's tomb, it was as calm as if he was talking about where to travel. But in Sumu's opinion, maybe going to the tomb is just like traveling for Men Yuping. Sumu was very happy. They also knew some of the inner tombs of King Xian's tomb. Knowing that there would definitely be more harvests inside, they felt so happy that they were filled with joy. As for safety, naturally we are not too worried. With the two super powerful combatants Sumu and Men Yuping, there is no need to worry too much. In the next period of time, everyone separated temporarily after agreeing on the time for the king's tomb. They went home to rest for a while, and then prepared what they needed to go to the king's tomb next time. Huoling and Sumugong have not yet confirmed their relationship, and their relationship has not yet progressed to the point of a home run. Although Huoling was very reluctant to leave Sumu, she had to choose to temporarily separate from Sumu after staying for 2 days. The originally lively days suddenly became deserted again. But Sumu didn't care about days like this. There was Fatty Wang who came to look for him, and Hu Bei came back soon. Relying on Sumu's guidance, Hu Bei went to find someone who could teach him his skills. Now that he has returned from his studies, he is extremely grateful to Sumu. Fatty Wang and Hu Bei were close partners, and they were overjoyed to be together again. It was said that Hu Bei came back at the right time, before they could unveil the king's tomb. Seeing that Hu Bei was back, Sumu secretly counted the days. It had been some time since Shirley Yang returned to the United States for training, and she thought it was almost time to come back. Sure enough, within a week, that graceful figure came to Sumu's eyes. "Husband. I'm back." Shirley Yang threw herself into Sumu's arms as soon as she put down her luggage. Although she often contacted her by phone during this period, Shirley Yang still missed Sumu very much. Especially when she learned that Sumu was going to the undersea tomb, she was even more worried. She trained hard there just to be able to come back and see Sumu earlier. Now that she actually saw him, she felt completely at ease. Shirley. Holding the soft body in his arms, Sumu was also happy in his heart. The separation between the two places for many days also made him miss this beautiful wife, and now he is finally in his arms. The elegant body fragrance invades the nostrils, this also made Sumu couldn't help but feel distraught. "Did you think of me?" Sumu hugged Shirley Yang's slender waist, leaned into his ear and whispered softly. Feeling a pair of hands doing something wrong on her waist, Shirley Yang felt like she was being pawed by a cat, and a shy look appeared on her face. Blushing, she reached out and pushed Sumu's chest. "I miss you very much. Comma. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tomb Raider, marry Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 189. I miss you very much. As he said that, Sumu didn't care. He directly picked up Shirley Yang and strode towards the bedroom amidst Shirley Yang's shy voice. The couple's separation was better than their wedding, and they naturally had a lot of entanglement and ups and downs. Early the next morning, Hu Bei and Fatty Wang came over. They came to discuss with Sumu about dedicating the king's tomb. They were surprised to see Shirley Yang back. They respected Sumu and Shirley. Yang also admired her very much. It was rare for a woman to have such ability. It was hard not to admire her. Now they could act together. When everyone was here, they naturally started to prepare for the tomb. Well, in just 1 week, everything that needed to be prepared was ready. Sumu, Men Yuping, and the others contacted the time and prepared to leave for Yunnan. Before leaving, Wu Sanzhong suddenly told Sumu and the others that he would temporarily suddenly something happened and he couldn't come, so he didn't participate this time. Everyone found a car and drove to the border of Yunnan together. As soon as they got in the car, Sumu and Shirley Yang did it together, while Men Yuping didn't care at all. Without hesitation, he sat directly behind them. Fatty Wang and Hu Bie sat together. They were not very far away from them, but they also considered that the young couple wanted to talk a little, so they didn't sit too close. See Me Na Yuping. After sitting over, Fatty Wang reached out and poked his back, and said with a smile, "Brother Zhang, why are you sitting here? Why can't I sit here?" Me Na Yuping turned around with a puzzled look on his face. Fatty Wang raised his chin to signal the two people sitting in front of him, and said, "Didn't you see them sitting in front? You are just sitting here as a light bulb." Me Na Yuping had an innocent look on his face. He glanced at the two people in front of him who were as sweet as honey, and said in a deep voice, "It's Sumu who said I'm sitting here." Fatty Wang and Hu Bei both looked stunned and asked, "Why?" Me Na Yuping explained Sumu said that positions are also divided into good and bad positions. Today's auspicious position is right here, so he asked me to sit here too. Huh? What about this? Fatty Wang and Hu Bei looked suspicious. Sumu glanced at him and said, "Why didn't you tell us about this, Su?" Mu turned around and said calmly, "Aren't you two sitting over there?" Hearing what he said, the two of them nodded in relief. As soon as they got into the car, they sat on the same side as Sumu and the others. Naturally, they didn't hear Sumu talk about this matter. It was reasonable for Sumu to say this. The reason is because he knew that when the car drove to the edge of the cliff, the herniated figurine of King Xian would fall down, so he made such an arrangement. I said, "Lao Hu, you have been out studying for so long, why don't you also come to do some divination?" Fatty Wang started to get excited. "During the time you came back, didn't you often say that you learned a lot from Zhang Sanlianzi? Come and try." Hu Bei did not delay. He actually took out a set of tortoise shells that were smaller than a palm from his arms, poured out the 5 emperors' money inside, and began to divine the 6-line divination. Seeing Hu Bei shaking his head, Gaijia poured out the 5 emperors' money, counted the coins with his hands, then stuffed the 5 emperors' money into the turtle's shell and shook it again. He repeated this several times until Fatty Wang was a little confused before he stopped. "How about it? What was calculated?" Fat Wang asked when he saw Hu Bei frowning and calculating for a long time. Sumu and Shirley Yang in front also looked back, waiting for the result of Hu Bai's calculation. Hu Bei looked up and saw everyone waiting. Then he said, "I calculated that our journey might not be peaceful, and this seat is really similar to what Sumu said." As he said this, Hu Bai's admiration for Sumu increased to a higher level, and he praised from the bottom of his heart, "Sumu's ability is really great. Where? He knows what Hu Bei is capable of. When he figures out what will happen, that's because he knows what the plot in the original work is like. When Hu Bei figures it out, he can only rely on his true talent." Fatty Wang was shocked and said in astonishment, "Is this really the case?" "That's for sure, but I only calculated that the location outside is very dangerous, but I can't figure out how dangerous it is," Hu Bei said. "Could it be that something could be knocked down outside?" Fatty Wang said indifferently, "I still don't believe it." As he said that, Fatty Wang directly found a seat outside and sat down. Upon hearing this, Sumu glanced at Fatty Wang deeply with interest. Tomb Raider, Mary Shirley Young at the beginning. Author, October is fierce and cute. Chapter 190. While the people were talking, the car had already arrived at the edge of a cliff. This is a mountain ringing road. The road is not very wide and can barely allow 2 cars to pass each other. In some sections, only 1 car can pass. One side is a steep rock wall left by the grooved mountain road, and the other side is a high cliff, the kind that will break your bones if you fall. Sumu had been paying attention to the scenery outside. When he saw the car driving into the mountainous road, he remained vigilant. I said, Lao Hu, are you saying that the location here is not good because of the height? Haha. Fatty Wang glanced at the cliff not far outside. Although he was a little frightened, he still pretended to be calm and teased Hu Bei. Hu Bei rolled his eyes at Fatty Wang and said, believe it or not, I didn't say this just because I climbed higher. And it wasn't just me who figured it out. Sumu also figured out that the position there was not good and asked Brother Zhang to change. Is it the location? You still have to go over there and sit there. Be careful and you will regret it later. Before Hu Bei could finish his words, he heard a loud noise coming from outside. Something fell directly from above his head and hit the outside of the carriage, and something quickly splashed out of the open window. Come in. What's this? Fat Wang reached out and touched a handful. When he held it in his hand, he saw that it was a milky white wriggling maggot. Ugh, fuck. What the hell is this? Vomit. Suddenly seeing something so disgusting and irritating, Fatty Wang couldn't help but feel nauseated no matter how brave he was. He immediately swatted the maggots off his body in a hurry, with a look of disgust on his face. Hu Bei and Shirley Yang were also startled by this sudden scene. They quickly looked outside the car and saw something falling from the roof of the car. Quick, get out of the car and see what it is. Shirley Yang immediately stopped the car and boldly walked out of the car first. Sumu did not fall behind and followed behind Shirley Yang. He already knew what it was but still got out of the car. Damn it, if I had known I would encounter something like this, I wouldn't have sat here. Fatty Wang followed everyone out of the car with a look of disgust on his face, and while wiping the maggot-contaminated areas on his body with a tissue, he complained with a darkened face. Only now do I realize that I regret it. I told you that it was not an auspicious location, but you refused to listen. Do you regret it now? Although Hu Bei felt very sorry for his brother, he couldn't help but laughed unkindly several times. I regret it, I really regret it. I really admire you and Sumu now. You two are amazing fortune tellers. I am convinced. I am completely convinced. Fatty Wang glanced at Hu Bei and Sumu with a bitter look on his face. He moved his nose and felt that no matter how hard he wiped it, there was still a smell that was difficult to wipe away. He couldn't bear to smell it. I just think about the squirming maggots and it makes me feel extremely sick. Fatty, you smell so bad. I think you'd better not come over here. When Shirley Yang saw Fatty Wang coming over, she immediately held her nose in disgust and stood further away, as did everyone else. Fatty Wang felt like his heart had been stabbed hard, it was so cold, so aggrieved. Also, it doesn't stink very much either. Fatty Wang was like an aggrieved little daughter-in-law, with a pitiful look on his face, which made everyone laugh again. Ha 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 ha. Fatty, you really only have yourself to blame for this. I'm in such a miserable state, why are you still laughing? Still not brothers anymore. Fat Wang felt sad and glared at Hu Bei and Sumu, seeming to feel even more aggrieved. Okay, just don't believe what we say next time. Sumu stood up to smooth things over, but the smile at the corner of his mouth was very eye-catching. Fatty Wang regretted that he felt like he was in a mournful realm, with dark clouds, lightning, and drizzle. He was extremely sad at this time. Several people had already seen what the thing that fell next to their car was, underscore.